1. Villisca Axe Murders, 1912, Iowa. Imagine living in a quiet small town, a town where neighbors greet each other, children play in the streets, and nothing ever changes. Now imagine one summer night in that same peaceful place, an entire family is slaughtered in their sleep by someone who was never caught. This isn't a movie plot, it's real. And more than a century later, the house where it happened is still standing, and some say still haunted. This is the disturbing true story of the Villisca Axe Murders. In June of 1912, Josiah Moore, his wife Sarah, their 4 children and 2 visiting girls were all brutally murdered in their own home. Sometime after midnight, while the family slept, a figure slipped inside. With an axe, they moved room to room in total silence, striking each victim with horrifying force. 8 lives ended in less than an hour. The killer didn't flee immediately. Instead, they lingered. Windows and mirrors were covered, as if to hide the crime from the outside world. Food was prepared in the kitchen but left untouched, as if the murderer had all the time in the world. The axe itself was abandoned in the house, propped casually against a wall. Whoever did this wasn't just violent, they were deliberate. By morning, the neighbors grew suspicious when the family never appeared outside. When the house was entered, the scene was so gruesome that even the strongest men in town staggered out in shock. The case immediately drew nationwide attention, but despite suspects, theories, and endless rumors, no one was ever convicted. The mystery remains unsolved. And yet, the story doesn't end there. The house itself became infamous. Today, visitors swear it's haunted. They hear children's laughter in empty rooms, footsteps across the floorboards, and whispers in the dark. Paranormal investigators have captured chilling voices, a child saying, "Don't go," and even a deep, angry growl from nowhere. Some who stay overnight claim they wake to find a shadowy figure standing at the foot of the bed, gripping something heavy in its hands. More than a century later, the murders of Villisca are still an open wound. The killer vanished, the motive was never revealed, and the victims never got justice. But step into that house and you'll feel it. The walls remember, the air is heavy, and some say the spirits of that night are still trapped inside, forever replaying their final moments. So, what do you think? Was this the work of a travelling serial killer, a jealous rival, or has something darker been left behind in that house? Second Dyatlov Pass Incident, 1959, Russia. Picture a frozen mountain in the dead of winter. The wind howls like a living thing, snowdrifts swallow the horizon, and silence stretches for miles in every direction. It was here, in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia, that 9 young hikers set out in 1959 on what should have been an ordinary expedition. Instead, they walked into one of the darkest and most disturbing mysteries in modern history. A mystery that still has no clear answer. The group, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, were experienced outdoorsmen and students. They packed warm clothes, food, a camera to capture memories, and of course, their trusted hiking gear. Their goal was to reach Mount Otorten, a remote peak whose name in the local Mansi language means "don't go there." At first, the trip went smoothly. The hikers documented their journey with photos and cheerful diary entries. They laughed, played music, and posed for the camera in the snow. Nothing suggested the nightmare that was waiting for them. But as they climbed higher into the mountains, the weather grew worse. Heavy snow, freezing temperatures, and brutal winds slowed their progress. Eventually, they set up camp on the slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl, which translates chillingly to Mountain of the Dead. That night would be their last. Weeks later, search teams scoured the mountains after the hikers failed to return. What they discovered was like something out of a horror film. The tent was found first, half buried in snow. But something was strange. It had been slashed open from the inside, as if the hikers had torn their way out in a desperate rush. Their belongings, boots, jackets, food, were left neatly inside. Whatever happened, they had run into the freezing night without protection. Soon, bodies began to appear. 2 hikers were found near the edge of the forest, barefoot and dressed only in underwear. 3 more were discovered halfway between the tent and the trees, as if they had tried to crawl back but froze in the snow. But the last 4 bodies told an even darker story. Hidden in a ravine, they showed horrifying injuries. One had a crushed skull. Another was missing their eyes. The young woman named Lyudmila had her tongue ripped out. Yet, strangely, there were no external wounds that matched the violence of their injuries, as though the damage had come from inside their bodies. Even more unsettling, radiation was detected on some of their clothing. The Soviet investigation concluded vaguely that the hikers died from a compelling natural force. But what does that even mean? Theories exploded. Some said it was an avalanche. Others whispered about secret Soviet weapons testing. Some even suggested the hikers were attacked by a yeti. Paranormal believers claimed the group stumbled into something unnatural, a portal, a UFO, or an ancient curse tied to the Mountain of the Dead. Locals in the area had their own chilling stories. They spoke of strange glowing orbs in the sky around the time of the tragedy. Some believed the hikers had angered the spirits of the mountain. The case was closed in 1959, only to be reopened decades later, but still no definitive answers have ever been found. Today, the site is a place of pilgrimage for thrill seekers, hikers, and paranormal investigators. Many who visit claim the air feels heavy, oppressive. Some say they hear faint screams on the wind. Others swear they've seen ghostly figures standing on the ridge, watching. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most unsettling, unsolved mysteries in the world. 9 young lives were cut short, their final moments filled with terror that left behind more questions than answers. So, what really happened that night? Was it a force of nature, a government cover-up, or something far darker, something we're not meant to understand? And the most haunting question of all, if you stood in that tent on the Mountain of the Dead, would you be able to sleep knowing what happened there? 3. Amityville Horror House, 1974, New York. Imagine walking into your new home, a beautiful Dutch colonial house by the water. Big windows, peaceful neighborhood, the kind of place where you'd imagine raising a family. But behind those walls lies a history of blood and terror. A year earlier, 6 people were murdered there in their sleep. And soon you begin to realize that maybe the house never forgot. This is the chilling true story of the Amityville Horror House. On November 13, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. picked up a rifle and walked room to room, shooting his parents and 4 siblings as they slept. The strange part: none of the neighbors reported hearing gunshots, and every family member was found lying face down in bed, as if no one had even stirred. To this day, people wonder how 6 murders could take place without anyone waking up or fighting back. The crime shocked America, but it was only the beginning of the house's sinister reputation. Just over a year later, the Lutz family moved in. George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, bought the house for a fraction of its value, fully aware of the murders that had taken place there. They thought they could handle it. After all, it was just a house, wasn't it? Almost immediately, things began to unravel. George, a healthy, ordinary man, began waking every night at exactly 3:15 a.m., the same time DeFeo had carried out the murders. He described feeling restless, filled with anger he couldn't explain. Soon he was spending hours chopping wood in a trance, barely sleeping, his personality slowly twisting. Kathy claimed she experienced terrifying visions. At one point, she said she looked in the mirror and saw her face transform into that of an old woman, wrinkled and decaying. She also felt unseen hands touch her while she slept. The children began acting strangely too. Their young daughter, Missy, spoke of a new friend she called Jody. But Jody wasn't another child. She described it as a pig-like creature with glowing red eyes that stared at her through the upstairs window. Even outsiders felt it. A priest who came to bless the house claimed he heard a deep, threatening voice tell him to get out. He fled and refused to return. The activity escalated. Crucifixes twisted upside down on the walls, doors slammed on their own. Mysterious cold spots spread throughout the house. And then came the slime, green, sticky ooze dripping down the walls and from keyholes with no explanation. George swore he saw shadows moving through the hallways at night. He once woke to find Kathy levitating above their bed. Another night, he claimed to see glowing red eyes staring at him through the dark window. After just 28 days, the Lutz family couldn't take it anymore. They abandoned the house, leaving their furniture and belongings behind, and never went back. When their story became public, it spread like wildfire. Books, documentaries, and eventually Hollywood films turned Amityville into a worldwide phenomenon. But with fame came doubt. Skeptics argued the whole thing was a hoax invented to make money off the tragedy. Some even accused the Lutz family of staging it all. But George and Kathy never admitted to making anything up. They maintained until their deaths that what they experienced was real, that the house had changed them, twisted them, and driven them out. The Amityville house still stands today, though its address has been changed to keep away curious visitors. The new owners have reported no paranormal activity, no glowing eyes, no slime, no voices in the night. So, was it all a hoax? Or did the evil inside the house retreat into silence, waiting for the right family to return? More than 40 years later, the Amityville Horror remains one of the most famous hauntings in the world, a story where the line between reality and nightmare is forever blurred. So what do you think? Was it a clever fabrication, or did the Lutz family truly live through something supernatural? And the real question, if you had the chance to buy a home like this, knowing its bloody past, would you dare move in? If these true horror stories sent chills down your spine, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, because the next disturbing mystery might just be darker than all of them. And tell me in the comments, which story haunted you the most?